From the KSBY studios in San Luis Obispo, Decision 2018, the race for Congress. A live debate between the candidates seeking to represent the 24th District in the United States Congress. Now, your hosts and moderators, KSBY News anchors Karina Corral and Richard Gearhart.
Good evening, I'm Karina Corral.
And I'm Richard Gearhart. Thanks for joining us for Decision 2018, the race for Congress.
Well, we are going to set some ground rules right now. Each candidate will have 90 seconds for an opening statement. The order was determined, and a coin toss before we start.
And Justin Fareed will be going first with those opening statements. After that, we will be asking questions posed by our viewers in many cases. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each question, and then if appropriate, we will allow a 30-second rebuttal from the other candidates.
All right, and let's go ahead and begin with Mr. Fareed.
Well, thank you, Karina and Richard and KSBY, and to all the viewers at home that are watching this important debate here this evening. Washington is broken, and we need a new generation of leadership to go back to Washington, D.C. to fix it. I'm a third-generation rancher. I'm a small businessman who's worked to create jobs and contribute to our local economy. We have to address some issues head-on that are affecting all of us around the Central Coast. As I've traveled around the Central Coast listening to voters' concerns, there are a few issues that I want to make sure we cover tonight, and I look forward to discussing many issues here this afternoon. But what I'm hearing from so many voters is about our local economy and jobs. I'm hearing about taxes and the broken budget system in Congress and the out-of-control national debt where politicians in Washington, D.C. are financing the future of this country on the future and backs of our kids and grandkids. We've got to turn this model around. It's necessary that we address critical issues like our highway infrastructure and water. We need to bring solutions to these problems to the table, and I've got a plan for them. And lastly, our crime and public safety has to be a top issue that our representatives and our public servants bring forward. I'm confident that after this afternoon, you will be able to make an informed decision about who is best to represent our Central Coast values in Washington, D.C.
All right, and then up next, opening statement from Michael Aaron Woody.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here tonight. America today, we're at a crossroads. Today we face a crisis in leadership that is unprecedented in American history. This lack of leadership is at the very core of the problems that we are facing here today. No longer can we afford to have sanctuary city policies in place that prevent our federal law enforcement from doing their job. No longer should we be using federal tax dollars for a failing high-speed rail system that was supposed to pay for itself. And no longer can we neglect our failing infrastructure. Our roads, bridges, and dams deserve our utmost attention. As a licensed engineer for over 20 years and an actual business owner, I understand firsthand what happens when unnecessary regulations hold opportunity back. As a graduate of Harvard University with a master's degree in public administration and as a former elected official, I also understand the complexities of government and what it takes to get government working again for all of us. Lastly, as my family has called the Central Coast our home for hundreds of years and many generations, and as a proud member of the Salinan Indian tribe along the Central Coast of California, it is more than a political issue to me to represent this area. It is a very personal issue for me to represent the people of this region. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. It is an honor of a lifetime, and I look forward to answering everybody's questions. Thank you again.
And incumbent Salud Carbajal, your 90-second opening statement.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Richard. And thank you to KSBY for hosting this forum. And thank you to the viewers. I immigrated to this country when I was 5 years old. I'm the youngest of 7. My father was a miner, then moved our family to the Central Coast, where he worked as a farm worker. And despite the economic challenges my family faced, I was lucky. I came to UCSB and got a great education. I joined the United States Marine Corps and am proud to have served my country. And for many years, I served in local government. And working across the aisle with both my Republican and Democrat colleagues, we were able to get a lot done and move programs forward that improved the lives of Central Coast working families and middle-class families. Now, for the past 15 months, I've had the privilege of representing the Central Coast in Washington. And I've worked hard on a number of issues to address the challenges our community is facing head on. We know that the Diablo Canyon facility is going to be closing, and I've been working hard to bring more jobs to our area, in the renewable energy sector, to incentivize businesses, to create more jobs and invest in our area so that we can mitigate those economic impacts. We know we continue to have a drought, and I've moved forward legislation to allow our local communities to have access to grant funds so that they could build and rebuild their infrastructure, so that they could conserve, reuse, and re-inject water so they could have more water security. Those are just two of the many issues that I've been working on.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to start with question number one, and Mr. Woody, you will be answering this question first.
Sure.
The gun debate has once again been stirred up by yet another horrific school shooting on Friday in Texas that killed 10 people, injured another 13. For those affected by the Florida shooting, the one prior to that killed 17 people, there was an immediate call for more gun control. In Texas, the reaction has been that gun control may not be the answer, but that there needs to be more focus on how we raise our children, society, and mental health. So what is the answer, in your opinion? Do we need more gun control? Do we need armed teachers? Do we need mental health funding, or some combination of those?
That is an absolutely perfect question to start this evening with. As you know, one death by gun is one too many, and we all know this. I think the first thing we have to do is that we need to get everybody at the table and all parties interested involved in something like this. There is no your side versus my side when it comes to life and death in this country. Over 30,000 people a year on average are killed by guns every year, with 2/3 of those coming from suicides, and the predominant rest of those being from domestic violence and from gang related. So let's understand the complexities of each one of those individually, and also what's going on in our schools. When it comes to protecting kids in our schools, let's at least give them the same level of protection that we give all of us at even a local football game or even a farmer's market. Give our local schools the ability to arm themselves as the local schools and school districts see fit. When it comes to issues such as where most people are losing their lives in suicide, we have to start taking a look at our health resources and how we deal with mental health in this country. When it comes to domestic violence, those people who have been found involved with domestic violence, we need to make sure that those people never have access to guns. I'm a former gun owner. I understand there is a huge responsibility with owning a gun. Lastly, when it comes to our gangs and how you reduce gang violence and death by guns with our gangs, let's make sure we start taking those gangs on head on. Start treating them like the terrorist organizations they are and deal with them head on. But likewise, all people need to be involved with this to find a solution to deal with our gun violence in this country.
Mr. Freed, same question.
Well, this is an issue that we can't deal with any more tragedies like this, and that's why we have to focus on our public safety. Make sure that we have school resource officers, and so our schools have the resources and public safety that is necessary to keep our kids safe. That's one point. The second is there's a critical component that has been circumvented in this whole process, and that is access to mental health care and mental treatment facilities throughout the region. We need to make sure that if there is anybody that is posing harm to themselves or others, that they could get the treatment and care that they need, and that we have the public safety resources, like a community resource officer in our schools to ensure that if there is a problem, it can be put to rest quickly.
And Mr. Carbajal.
Our children do not need to have to go to school and fear for their lives. We need to do more. We need to pass more gun safety laws. We need to ban assault rifles. I was in the Marine Corps. I know what those weapons can do in our communities. We need universal background checks, and we need to make sure we ban high-capacity magazines. I need to look no further than my own family. My sister committed suicide with my father's revolver when I was very young. I've passed the Gun Violence Restraining Order Act, which allows local families to work with law enforcement in our courts so they could seek a warrant to take away guns from individuals who pose a danger to themselves or others. We need to do a lot more. We need to invest more in our mental health department so that we could have more services for those individuals in crisis. But make no mistake about it, we do need to pass more gun safety laws to make sure that gun violence in our country is reduced.
All right, quick follow-up, and we're looking for really short questions, really short responses, maybe yes or no if possible, when it comes to gun control, because that's been such a huge topic with our viewers. So yes or no, do we need more gun control, more safety gun, or more gun safety laws, Mr. Woody?
In the states that are allowing people to sell guns between each other, and California's not one of them, but for states that are allowing people to sell privately guns between each other with no background checks, those states need to be more regulated, so that way they can't do that. So in that respect, it would be yes.
Okay, Mr. Fareed.
I think we could all agree that safety measures need to be put in place so that the number one priority is that our kids and our parents aren't sending their kids off to school and that they are in fear of what may happen there. So making sure that we have the resource officers is a safety issue that must be addressed, and we need to have resources so that our local officials and other agencies could work with one another to flag any issues, and then also complement that with mental health resources. So,
but you agree with stricter laws on actual gun ownership or taking assault rifles away?
I believe that we need to focus on the gun safety issue and make sure that we have greater interagency coordination within one another. I talked to a school resource officer in Santa Maria recently, and they've had several different flags, and I said, what has this process been like for you? And she says, well, we've appreciated it because we haven't gone through these drills before, but now we have the coordination with other agencies and departments to ensure that we could go through this in a cohesive and efficient way. We need to support programs like that so that our local enforcement can treat and flag these issues and make sure that anybody who's may cause harm to themselves or others are flagged, identified, and be able to have the mental health facilities and treatment that are so very much needed.
All right, we're going to move on to another timely topic because of President Trump's proposal on Friday. He's previously vowed to nominate pro-life judges to help the High Court overturn Roe v. Wade, essentially allowing abortions. Friday, the president introduced budget legislation to defund Planned Parenthood under the basis that they perform abortions. This is a two-part question. And again, if you could just answer one-worded answers here. Are you pro-life or pro-choice? And B, how will you or would you vote for the president's plan to defund Planned Parenthood and all agencies that perform abortions? And Mr. Fareed, we'll start with you.
Well, this is an antiquated question because this law was put in place almost 50 years ago. I'm not in favor of overturning a law that's already in place, but I think it's important that we do have the resources for preventative health care, and any community clinic or service or organization that does mammograms, cancer screenings, anything that would reduce the cost of health care, because health care is one of the primary drivers of the issues that are facing many of the Central Coast residents and the cost of health care. And one of the ways to address that is by supporting and fully preventative health care. So I'm a big proponent to that.
The vote, though, would be, that's a friend of Congress, would be whether you're going to vote to defund Planned Parenthood and agencies that perform abortions. How would you vote?
I would support anything that would help preventative health care and support anything that allows for cancer screenings, mammograms, and anything that gives the resources necessary for our community to reduce the cost of health care.
And I do believe, the voters want to know who they're voting for in terms of what they believe in. Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
This is a deeply personal issue that should be left to women, their doctors, their family, and clergymen.
Okay, we'll move on now to Mr. Carbajal.
I'm unequivocally pro-choice. I am against any effort to undermine Roe versus Wade. I am against any effort that will defund services to Planned Parenthood. I am against any effort that will defund services, reproductive health care services for women. I believe we are experiencing yet another assault by this administration on women, and this just has to stop. Women have every right to contraception, to good health care, reproductive right health care, and I would vote against any attempt to undermine or defund those important services. It's a misnomer. Planned Parenthood does not get $1 from the federal government to perform abortions. But yet, that is always the debate. Over 95% of the services provided by Planned Parenthood are in the form of preventative care, mammograms, cancer screenings. That's what Planned Parenthood does. So I stand with Planned Parenthood. I'm proud to have their endorsement, and I will always vote against any effort to undermine women's reproductive health care.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carbajal. And Mr. Woody?
Thank you so much. I have always and will continue to strongly support a woman's right to choose. It's very important that we do this in this country, and I strongly believe in that. I do not support late-term abortions that go into the third trimester, and I will never support partial birth abortions. I also do not support using federal tax dollars for abortions. However, let's expand on what we're looking at here. What we're talking about is a budgetary move that would defund Planned Parenthood specifically for non-abortion procedures. So that would be something that I would respectfully disagree with the White House with. I also strongly disagree with the idea that we are going to appoint judges, whether it be for pro-life issues or Second Amendment issues or anything else like that, in which any White House or any administration would appoint judges based on a political agenda. We need to be appointing judges to the Supreme Court and approving those judges based on their ability to fairly and accurately interpret the Constitution. Those are the types of judges we need to be supporting, not those with a political agenda on any way, one way or the other.
All right, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is immigration. And each of you has previously stated to at least a certain extent that you favor citizenship for undocumented workers. So this is, again, a two-part question. A, how do you go about that? And do you specifically support Dreamers, those children who were brought here illegally, as children? And B, President Trump and the state of California obviously are at odds over the sanctuary state and sanctuary city laws. How would you vote to get rid of sanctuary laws? And do you believe that the police should have the right to work with federal agents in terms of immigration control? And we're going to start with Mr. Carbajal.
Thank you. I've always been a proponent of comprehensive immigration reform because that will address our labor shortages, all the issues that we have been debating for so long. It will also address the DACA solution so that DACA students can stay in this country. I've been a proponent and have been working across the aisle with Democrats and Republicans, and I've co-sponsored a number of pieces of legislation that are bipartisan. The RAC Act, the USA Act, and the DREAM Act. All of those bills are pending and waiting for the leadership to put them on the floor so that we could vote on them. I believe comprehensive immigration reform will address many, if not all, of those issues. When it comes to sanctuary cities, I believe that comprehensive immigration reform will address all of the issues that are at the forefront of all of the debates that we are having on that issue and others. I believe that's what we need to do, is pass comprehensive immigration reform. I'm an immigrant myself. I came to this country when the system worked, where we got in line and applied and were able to come to this country for opportunities that this country provides to so many immigrants over the many years of our country's existence. I believe in comprehensive immigration reform.
Mr. Woody?
Sure, thank you for that question. Let's start with the most basic. I do not and I will not ever support sanctuary city or sanctuary state laws. They are absolute disservice to any type of immigration or organized immigration into this country. Next, but in terms of our kids that are involved with DACA, there's no question out there in my mind that the right thing to do is to find an absolute solution for those kids so that way they can fill out the forms properly, put everything together, and allow them to be in this country legally. But through decisions that were made that were through no fault of their own, they end up being here in this country without that ability to fill out any forms or be here in the correct manner. That has to be fixed. So let's fix DACA. Let's get the DACA kids here in the right manner, but let's never ever support sanctuary city laws or sanctuary state laws. Those are an absolute mistake on our immigration system.
And Mr. Fareed?
It's due time that we put people over politics. We've heard, and for too long, that we need to have comprehensive immigration reform. I've heard that for at least a generation. I think my opponent mentioned that 5 or 6 times in his response. That's a talking point. We need solutions. This is why I believe that we should go to a single subject rule in Congress so that we're dealing with each issue one step at a time. This is a highly complex issue. When we're talking about our dreamers, we need to have a fix for that. We need to work with one another to bring forward solutions, and that's necessary. With regard to the sanctuary state policy, there are fundamental flaws in this. We've seen where there's been people that are here undocumented who've been arrested and released, and because local law enforcement cannot work with our federal law enforcement, there's been many instances where heinous crimes have taken place. My opponent voted against Kate's Law and other common sense, practical public safety measures that very well would keep our streets safe. I am the crime and public safety candidate in this race. I'm honored to have the endorsement of our Deputy Sheriff's Association. We need to make sure that we're addressing this issue one step at a time so it's passed on its own merit. We need to have a functional legal immigration system that is compassionate, that is fair, but a merit-based legal immigration system moving forward.
All right, and Mr. Carbajal, because he mentioned you specifically in his response, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Great, absolutely. You know, the Cates Law that my opponent is referring to was a law that attempted to criminalize individuals seeking asylum and victims of sex trafficking. I put forth an amendment to fix that law so that I could vote for it. My amendment was denied. So that law, while I think it attempted to deal with those that committed serious offenses, went too far by criminalizing innocent people that just want to come to this country to better their lives.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the topic of oil drilling. President Trump has proposed to open offshore waters to oil drilling, including here on the Central Coast, as a new path for energy dominance in America. He says creating millions in jobs and billions of dollars in revenue. Many coastal states have vowed to fight this due to the environmental risk, citing disastrous oil spills like the Refugio spill. Mr. Woody, we'll start with you. Do you support offshore oil drilling?
Well, offshore oil drilling, I mean, let's take a look at some numbers and some statistics that we're dealing with right now. Off the coast of Santa Barbara, and a lot of people don't know this, that all of that oil drilling that we're doing out there right now only represents less than 0.5% of our nation's oil output. If we were to simply expand, offshore oil drilling along that coastline, it would make no statistical difference in our nation's oil output or energy independence from overseas. Secondly, when we talk about energy independence, let's not forget that it's actually the country of Canada that provides us with roughly about 38 to 40% of all of our nation's imports, with Saudi Arabia hovering around 11%. So expanding offshore oil drilling makes no economic or statistical sense along the coast of California. We've seen what's happened with Refugio. We've seen what's happened with Guadalupe, Avila Beach, and what happened down in Santa Barbara many years ago. So expanding our offshore oil drilling, it's a non-starter with me. It makes no sense. It does not make us any safer, and there's really no economic issue with doing something like that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Woody. Mr. Fareed, do you support offshore oil drilling?
Well, it's not that simple. As you mentioned, it requires the support and backing of our county, the Coastal Commission, the state, and I just don't see that happening. I'm a proponent to moving towards a decarbonized future, increasing our energy efficiency standards so that we're reducing our carbon footprint, making sure that we are laying the pathway, getting renewable energy, new technologies up and operational, cutting through bureaucracy, easing regulations so that we have a practical plan moving forward. We need to make sure that we're supporting our local economy, hiring locally, creating more jobs, and this is something that we have to do given the circumstances here on the Central Coast. It's most important that we move towards a decarbonized future, but we are hiring locally and we are building the workforce here moving forward.
Mr. Fareed, I'm going to ask again because I still don't know that we know your stance on offshore oil drilling. If it were to come up for a vote and you were the congressman, how would you vote?
Well, I don't see it coming up for a vote. As I would say, there are multiple stakeholders. I really see this as being more of a political talking point than a reality. I don't think that there will be any future offshore oil drilling. I don't believe that will happen, and I believe that we need to move towards a decarbonized future. And to repeat myself, move towards creating more renewable energies and increasing our energy efficiency standards so that we're reducing our carbon footprint.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Carbajal.
Let me answer your question. I am against future offshore oil drilling. My first piece of legislation that I sponsored in Congress representing the Central Coast was the California Clean Coast Act, which would prohibit future offshore oil drilling off the Central Coast and California. I believe we need to move from fossil fuels to investing in renewable energy. That's really what we need to build new job sectors and to help build the new economy. I'm proud to have the endorsement and the support of the Sierra Club and the League of Conservation Voters for all the work that I've done to address climate change and to address offshore oil drilling off our coast.
All right. And we're going to move on to another topic again, budget and tax reform. So this was posed by one of our viewers who says the controversial spending plan that raised the national debt to more than $20 trillion also boosted some critical services or funding to critical services. So Mr. Fareed's going to go first, but here is the question for all of you. For the congressman, why did you support that bill, even though you called it, quote, dangerous spending? And for the challengers, would you have supported the bill? For all of you, how do we bring down national debt? And we'll start with you, Mr. Fareed.
This is one of the most critical issues moving forward. Our politicians in Washington, D.C. are mortgaging the future of this country on the backs of our children and grandchildren. The Congress just passed, and my opponent just supported, a $1.3 trillion spending package. We have a broken budget structure in Congress, and this needs to be addressed at its core. They had about 2,300 pages and 15 hours to read it in that $1.3 trillion spending package. We need to have better oversight and management of taxpayer dollars and make sure there's greater accountability and transparency. And this is why I proposed moving to a 2-year budget system, so there's one budget for each congressional session. This would allow for better oversight and management. It would allow for members of Congress to see what's working, what's not working, separate the bad from the good, and make sure that things are up to date with today's national priorities. It will also allow us to reduce waste, fraud, abuse, make sure that that we're integrating new technologies so that it is more efficient. But again, it brings greater transparency, certainty, and stability, but more importantly, accountability moving forward. We need to address our broken budget structure at its foundation, and that comes through reform.
Mr. Carbajal.
Thank you. The spending bill that Mr. Fareed is referring to and that you're referring to was a bipartisan agreement that was reached in Congress. In a day where we have a broken Congress that doesn't work, we were able to reach a bipartisan deal. And that's why I voted for it. It certainly wasn't perfect, but it was the best negotiated deal between all parties that was reached. It provided invaluable services to protect our homeless, to protect our veterans, to provide public safety resources to our communities, to provide mental health services, to be able to provide dollars to our local community so we could build affordable workforce housing. That's what that bill provided. Certainly it wasn't perfect, but it was a bipartisan deal. And when you can reach bipartisan deals, I think that is a good moment in Washington. What I didn't support was the tax reform plan that was put forth by this Republican majority that gave 83% of the benefit to the top 1% wealthiest Americans in multinational corporations, and actually created a $2 trillion addition to our debt and our deficit, which is going to pay by future generations. And now they're attempting to balance those expenditures on the backs of Social Security and Medicare. That is what I did not support.
So just a quick follow-up. You do support that additional funding that was needed for what you're calling critical services, but how would you bring that debt down? Where would you cut spending?
I think we could cut spending in a number of areas. I sit on the Armed Services Committee, and I have pushed for a robust national security. But certainly, I think the public would be shocked to know that our Department of Defense, we've never completed in the history of the Department of Defense an audit, a comprehensive audit. And we all know we can find savings from expenditures that weren't made well in that area as well as other areas.
All right, we do have other rebuttals, but we're going to finish the question first with Mr. Woody.
Thank you so much. Listen, it wasn't a perfect bill, and yeah, reluctantly, I would have supported it. The only way we're going to realistically bring our deficit down, and I know some people would would argue for the idea that somehow in one fiscal year we can start bringing our deficit down, but that really is unrealistic. The only way to bring our deficit down is to have a complete change in the attitude of government and how we approach government and government services. And it would take, I would say probably easily about 4 to 5 fiscal years in order to start gradually cutting all departments and all government resources in a way that is not only more efficient, but starts bringing down our expenditures, so that way our expenditures can finally get to a point where expenditures meet incoming revenue. Yes, I would have supported it. Not the greatest thing in the world I think that was the deal that was put together, but it was a bipartisan deal, and for the sake of moving things forward, I would have supported it.
All right, Mr. Fareed, 30 seconds to respond.
Well, my opponent circumvents the fact that our budget system is broken. There is very little oversight or management. He talks about auditing stuff. That's what Congress is supposed to do when they're reviewing the budget. But because there's this annual rush of appropriations and authorization, which again only happened in a 15-hour period, how can a member of Congress possibly do this? There's already models that work. We have Atascadero here in North County, or Goleta down in Santa Barbara, that are on a 2-year budget system. There's more than 20 states that use this. This is a model that works, and we need to implement it for our future.
All right, and then 2 quick follow-ups just for Mr. Woody and Mr. Fareed, because Mr. Carbajal is already on the record. Do you support the president's tax forms? Yes or no, Mr. Fareed?
I certainly support tax relief. I think it's a shame that my opponent stood there on the House floor.
Tax form. So yes or no, would you have supported it?
Well, there's more work that needs to be done. We need to make the individual tax reforms permanent when there's a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed with tax relief. But it certainly was a step in a direction, and I think it's a shame that my opponent stood on the House floor calling it a tax scam when he had a seat at the table to fight for Central Coast families and didn't. I think it's important to note that he has had not 1, not 2, but 3 federal tax things. So while we are paying our taxes, he's failing to pay his own.
All right, and obviously we're going to time for a rebuttal, but we're running out of time here. So Mr. Woody, yes or no, do you support president's tax reforms?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you for a yes/no answer. Mr. Carbajal, you obviously were in that response, so I'll give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. Well, certainly we need to understand that in order to really fix our finances in Washington, is we need to take a holistic approach. And I believe that is something that we're all trying to do. Unfortunately, the plan that was put forth, the tax plan, provided no tax relief of major significance to working families and middle-class families. Whatever benefit was provided is going to expire by 2025. And for corporations and the wealthiest 1% Americans, it never expires. That's why I voted against the tax plan.
All right, thank you.
All right, and now we're going to move on to the Diablo Canyon power plant closure, but because of time restraints, we're going to now limit the responses to 60 seconds because we really want to get through as many questions as possible. Mr. Carbajal, we'll start with you. The Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant has a sizable economic impact in the area. It's been estimated at $1 billion a year. What will each of you do to help the area transition to a post-Diablo economy?
Great. Thank you for that question. Well, the local economy and our local schools and governments are going to be greatly impacted economically by the closure and the decommissioning of the Diablo Canyon power plant. What I have done is introduce legislation that will incentivize and provide tax credits to local businesses to invest in renewable energy, and thereby creating more jobs that will allow us to mitigate the 1,500 jobs that will be lost as a result of the closing of the power plant. That's just one. Also, we need to look at everything possible to see how we might be able to reuse and repurpose, for instance, the desalinization plant to help the local community with its water security issues. We can do a lot more. I'm working on solutions that will bring about more jobs to mitigate the economic impacts that the closure of the Diablo Canyon power plant will have on the community.
Mr. Carbajal, thank you. Mr. Woody?
Sure. Well, let's start with a few issues. One, in the state of California, we do have Senate Bill 1090 that's going through our legislature right now. So let's make sure that we support that, because that's going to bring a lot of relief to our local governments and to the people of this region based on the closure of the Diablo power plant. The other one is, let's talk about the actual employees that are there working there. These are highly skilled engineers making on the average of over 6-digit figure salaries out there. So let's talk about the tax credits and tax incentives that will help out those employees and their families to transition to other locations and other jobs around this region or anywhere around this country or around the world. The other one is, in the federal government, in the United States Department of Defense, we have a program back there in Washington that helps communities that are losing bases based on base closures. And so what we should do is we should start emulating that program that we're using in the U.S. Department of Defense and use that for nuclear power plants that are closing to help mitigate the problems that so many other communities, including our own, are going to be having with the closure of these nuclear power plants.
All right, Mr. Woody, thank you. Mr. Fareed?
Well, this is a critical issue, and as I've talked with families around the Central Coast, I've heard the story all too often that families have to pick up and move. We have to do all we can to promote economic growth and jobs here on the Central Coast. With regard to Diablo, I believe that we need to investigate and ensure that we can potentially repurpose it. One of the most critical issues facing all Central Coast residents is water. I just recently was in Israel meeting with engineers and executives from two different types of water technology companies. One was a treatment facility plant, and another one was a desalination plant. The infrastructure exists to be able to repurpose that to create jobs and make sure that we could solve another problem that we have with desalination. And then furthermore, creating more jobs here locally means getting government out of the way, cutting through the bureaucracy, and ensuring that we can create economic growth. As a locally born and raised small businessman, I know what it's like to create jobs, and I will be the champion, the jobs candidate.
All right, the next question is about specifically Montecito and the mudslides, the fire, the Thomas Fire, and then future wildfires. Some of that spending, some of the money in that budget was for states hit by natural disasters. The question is, what is the quickest way to use that money to help the folks who were victims of the Montecito mudslides or the Thomas Fire? And number two, as wildfire season approaches, what do you support to reduce the wildfire risk? We're going to start with Mr. Woody.
Thank you so much. The people of Montecito, the first thing that they need right now is we need to make sure that we get the federal government behind and to support the local needs of the local governments in Santa Barbara and Santa Barbara County. The people there that have been directly affected by them, and a lot of them are friends of mine, and I helped them get cleaned up out of their homes and get them relocated. We need to understand that their insurance is starting to run out, and they can't wait forever to get these homes rebuilt. So let's make sure that the federal government stands firmly behind supporting the needs of the local government and allow the local government to guide what they need and make sure that we play the role in helping out their needs. Tell me the second question again. We'll make sure I get this.
Wildfire risk.
I'm sorry.
Reduce that?
Sure. You do that by working with our state and federal agencies to make sure that they have the proper resources, such as with the Bureau of Land Management, I believe it is, and to make sure that those departments have the resources they need to properly execute and do their job. Too often, these departments, which don't take up a lot of our budget, a lot of our money, are simply underfunded and cannot do their job properly. So let's make sure that they're adequately backed.
Mr. Fareed.
When disaster happens, it's overwhelming, devastating. But in the spirit of recovery, our community did pull together. But government has a responsibility to help too. I believe that we need to take preventative measures and to support our firefighters with the federal forestry, county fire, CAL FIRE, to be able to do vegetation thinning around electrical infrastructure, streamline the process for that, to be able to do controlled burns, prescribed grazing, and other techniques that prevent and mitigate the size and magnitude of fires. I think it's a shame that when there was an opportunity to bring to the floor a vote for disaster relief funding, it was roll call vote 705 on December 21st. My opponent decided to gamble with disaster relief and didn't want to bring it to the floor. He voted against two different preventative measures. Roll call vote 598, the Resilient Federal Forestries Act back in November that would have allowed for prescribed burns. The roll call vote 315 on June 21st that would have allowed for streamlined processing for vegetation thinning. These preventative measures would have been very much successful for us in our community, and it's a shame that he's not in favor of preventative measures.
Mr. Carbajal?
Thank you. I voted for all spending bills, all disaster relief bills that came to our floor. The information my opponent is providing is absolutely false. I voted for also in the spending bill, once and for all, to treat wildfires like we treat disasters in our other disasters in our country. We now have a fund, a $2.5 billion fund that the U.S. Forest Service could tap into when they exhaust their already existing firefighting fund, so that they can also now invest in mitigating and preventing future fires. Before, they weren't able to do that because they had to pull their money together to spend for those wildfires because we didn't have a different fund called. So in the past, the practice was called fire borrowing. We no longer have that practice, and I'm proud to say that we did this in a bipartisan way.
Mr. Freed, 30 seconds for a response.
I've lost people I knew my whole life. This is something that affected me personally and many other residents through our community. Businesses were closed and shut down. I'll encourage you to go online and look up roll call vote 705, where my opponent did gamble with disaster relief funding. He voted against bringing it to the floor for a vote. Go and look at roll call vote 598, November 1st, 2017. Look at roll call vote 315 on June 21st that would have allowed for preventative measures for our forestry.
Mr. Carbajal?
Those bills that he's referring to were either a procedural vote or bills that would have done nothing for our community. They would not have added one more cent to help fight fires. If anything, they would have allowed commercial timber to exist in other areas and clear-cut mountains. That is not the type of prevention for firefighting that we need. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the federal firefighters. I'm proud that I voted for every disaster relief proposal and bill that was brought before me.
They were both bills that passed in a bipartisan way. Please, I encourage you to go online and look at it. Very well could have mitigated future disasters.
You've had your chance to talk about that two times now, so we're going to move on to the next question.
Sure.
And the next question has to do with climate change, and we'll kind of combine two. This comes from Gail and Vicky. So Vicky says extreme weather events in the U.S. scientists say are linked with climate change, such as the devastating Thomas Fire and the subsequent mudslides in our area. So what is your plan for addressing climate change and reducing carbon emissions in our country? And also, Gail asks, how soon do we have to take them to avoid the worst effects of climate change in our district? And Mr. Fareed, we'll start with you.
I think we need to take a practical approach, but I'm all in favor of moving towards a decarbonized future, increasing our energy efficiency standards, reducing our carbon footprint by making sure that we are paving the pathway and streamlining the process for new technologies, allowing our innovators to create more energy efficient technologies and new technologies. And I believe that we can be leaders here in the United States moving forward. So I'm very much a proponent, and I really appreciate the question.
Mr. Carbajal?
We certainly need to move away from fossil fuels and invest in renewable energy. But we need to make sure that we are raising our standards, like California has been doing, to ensure that we're reducing our emissions from various sources, power plants and vehicles. This administration is challenging California's waiver to continue to have higher standards for reducing emissions from our vehicles. We need to continue to be aggressive. We need to continue to make sure we're investing in renewable energy to protect our air, water, and to ensure that we are reducing our greenhouse gases that are causing sea level rise and catastrophic climate change.
All right, Mr. Carbajal, thank you. And Mr. Woody.
Thank you so much. Well, here's the problem that we've been seeing here today. For over 50 years, if not even longer, we have been told over and over and over what is going to be happening to our country or to this world if we don't reduce emissions. Everything from climate change, global warming, global cooling, we've heard it all in the last 50 years. But what we need to understand is that every byproduct that we put into our environment does have an adverse effect. We need to understand that. So lowering CO2 emissions, lowering methane, lowering nitrous oxide absolutely should be the goal. But the problem that we're seeing here today is we're taking groups of people such as our farmers in the state of California and asking them to reduce methane output by, say, 20% in their farms. But what happens with that is when you actually run the calculations, what you find is that that reduction on our California farmers, for example, only reduces greenhouse gas emissions worldwide by less than 0.02%. So what we're doing here, our solution is to, the solution that seems to be coming forward from a lot of these groups is to single out one or two groups and that make absolutely no statistical difference, when what we should be doing is talking about lowering these emissions in a way that is economically viable and feasible for everybody.
All right, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is marijuana. Lots of our viewers interested in this, but Andrew specifically wants to know, how do each of you feel about the regulation and taxation of marijuana? Would you support national legalization of marijuana? And how should the discrepancies between state and national laws that exist now be handled at a federal level? We're going to start with Mr. Carbajal.
Yes, I support legalizing marijuana. I've always supported medicinal marijuana legalization as well, and recreational. I do believe, though, we need to do it right. We need to make sure there's a framework, just like we treat alcohol, to ensure that there's regulations so that society is clear on how it can be used or not. And we need to make sure we're protecting our youth. Our underage youth do not need to have access to marijuana. And we need to make sure that we have a framework that is taking that into consideration. But you know, for too long, we've criminalized people for using marijuana, and it's only put more people in jails and in prison. What we need to do is make sure that we treat it like we treat alcohol. We need to unclassify it as a class 1 drug at the federal government. And I do believe that states have the right to enact measures like California has, and that we can legalize it at one point totally for the entire United States.
Mr. Woody?
Thank you. Personally speaking, I truly do not care if some college student wants to stay up till 2 in the morning smoking a joint and eating Cheetos all night. It does not bother me one bit whatsoever. And we cannot continue to use our law enforcement and waste law enforcement dollars trying to arrest people that are doing something along those lines. I've talked to a lot of folks that are in our law enforcement, and they have all told me the same thing, that one of the problems that we're facing here in this country is by some states legalizing marijuana and other states who are not legalizing marijuana, is that we have groups and organizations, in particular gangs, coming in from overseas and taking advantage of states that you can have marijuana and using that as a base for their transportation to other states where marijuana is illegal. Supporting a nationalized marijuana policy makes rational, good sense, and is something that I would support. This is it really is a personal issue. So like I said, if somebody wants to make that decision and to smoke marijuana, it should be their decision. Now, in terms of the taxes, and I'll go quick on this, any taxes that are done on any product, it should be done in a way that works well in the economy, and that would probably be the best way to go on the taxes on that. Thank you.
Mr. Fareed.
Well, when you look at it from a federal perspective, the fact that it is listed as a Schedule I drug with heroin, that needs to be reevaluated. It needs to be dropped down. And we have to think about the public safety interest in this. So we have to be very careful with how it's taxed and regulated, because we don't want it to go back onto the black market. I think it's important to note that we have spent, as taxpayers, hundreds of billions of dollars on this war on drugs, and it's not working. This is something where I believe we need to move away from that, reduce the spending, and make sure that there are practical approaches to that. And furthermore, there's been way too many people that have been incarcerated for being in possession of this. This should be treated just like it is with alcohol, where it's regulated and taxed. And I believe that we can do that at the federal level, that we can come forward with bipartisan solutions to this issue.
All right, thank you all three. Now we're going to move on to health care. In light of the changes President Trump has made to Obamacare and his plan to reduce prescription drug prices, do you have a plan to keep health care costs under control? First part of the question. And secondly, where do you stand on single-payer health care? And we'll start with Mr. Woody.
Thank you so much. Well, let me take the last question first. I do not support single-payer health care. I never will. It's a bad idea. Second of all, when you go back to the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare, or however you want to phrase it, that was just a bad move. The solution to our healthcare problem is not to have government come in and take over 1/6 of our economy. That is just never going to be the solution. That would be like trying to solve our homeless problem by having the government come in and take over the entire housing industry. That's not the solution. The solution is just the opposite. We need to get government out of our health care. Now, that does not include Medicare and Medicaid that I'm talking about, but what I'm talking about is our health care industry. For those people who can afford health care, they should be responsible for buying their health care. For those who cannot afford health care, it should be the responsibility of the richest country and the most prosperous country on this planet to make sure that we help those people buy into the private markets.
Mr. Woody, thank you. Mr. Fareed?
I don't support a single-payer healthcare system. We need to make sure that we are treating the source of the problem with this. When we're seeing a rising cost of healthcare, where premiums are rising, deductibles are going up, and people are losing their doctors or pulling out of the system that currently is in place, we need to approach this at its core. And one of that is addressing and making sure that people have access to affordable and accessible healthcare so they could address preventative care, most importantly, because as that goes on, that increases the cost of it. We have to make sure that we are evaluating the cost of healthcare, and a lot of that is over diagnostics. We have to make sure that we could purchase insurance across state lines so that there's greater competition in the marketplace that will reduce that. But ultimately, addressing tort reform will reduce the cost of healthcare. So these are ways that on a step-by-step basis, we could reduce the cost of healthcare insurance and allow for greater access at a more affordable rate.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fareed. And Congressman?
Thank you. This past year, I've been doing everything possible to fight the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. I believe in the Affordable Care Act. It's provided health care for over 20 million Americans, and I believe we can do better. Health care should not be a privilege, it should be a right. I believe we can make it better by working in a bipartisan way to, for instance, create a public option, to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices like the VA does, and to pass those on to Medicare, everybody who receives Medicare. I believe we can also address it by stabilizing the market and providing more affordability to middle-class families by providing cost-sharing subsidies. There's a lot we can do. But I believe that we need to make sure that the Affordable Care Act continues and that it is not continued to be sabotaged by this president and Republican majority.
All right, thank you. And this will be our final question. We're going to ask that you limit your responses to just 30 seconds. Assuming you're elected day one, what's the biggest problem in the district and how do you solve that with legislation that you plan to propose? And we'll start with Mr. Fareed.
Well, the most important issue, and there's several, are jobs and the local economy for us here. I hear too often from residents that they've put together a 5-year plan, that they sit around the kitchen table talking to their family, and at the end of that 5 years, they're moving out of this area. We need to cut through bureaucracy and streamline the process so we could get back to work and so we could hire here locally. We need to reduce wasteful spending and make sure that we fight for tax relief for voters. And we need a candidate in office that will fight to support our crime and public safety people as well.
Mr. Carball?
There's 3 issues. The first is more jobs, making sure we're doing everything possible to mitigate the closure of the Diablo Canyon power plant, because that's going to have a huge impact on our local economy. Secondly, water. We need to have more water security, and that's why I moved legislation forward to address Diablo Canyon as well as to provide more resources so communities could provide for their water security. And lastly, we just had a terrible disaster where we lost 23 of our dearest friends and members of our community. And we need to make sure that recovery continues and the resources are available.
Mr. Woody.
Sure. Water and infrastructure. We need to start making sure that we prioritize our federal funds for the proper water and infrastructure storage, including new dams that we need here in California. The other one would be small businesses. This entire central coastline from Santa Barbara to San Luis Obispo is a coastline of small business owners. They need to know that we've got their back, and we're going to start eliminating a lot of those unnecessary regulations that are there. The other one is protecting our quality of life and our way of life out here, our environment. Let's make sure that we conserve properly. I would say those would be the first 3 things that I'd be working on right from the beginning.
All right.
Mr. Woody, thank you, and thank you all three for participating in the question and answer segment. That's going to do it for that segment. We'd like to move on to closing statements now. Each of you get 90 seconds, and we're going to start with Mr. Woody.
Thank you so much. What an honor and a privilege it is here to be this afternoon. Thank you to everybody at KSBY and everybody who's watching at home with this. And I also like to take a second to thank my two opponents on this too. This is a tough race sometimes, but I admire both of you for doing this. We truly are at a crossroads in the United States of America, and we truly do deserve something better. I think for the first time in more than a generation in this congressional district, we finally have a chance to have true representation, and the representation that all of us finally deserve, not just from one single party and not just from a partisan platform. What we need is we need to recognize the uniqueness of this district, the uniqueness of our needs, whether it be through jobs, our environment, our social needs, and our infrastructure, and the needs of everybody in this district. We need a representation that stands for all of those. I am that candidate, and that's why I'm running for office. No longer can we afford the sanctuary city policies that prevent our federal law enforcement from doing their jobs. No longer can we afford to have people back there in Washington fighting to use federal tax dollars for a failing high-speed rail system that was supposed to be paying for itself. Those are the types of issues, and many others, that we need a better and new direction on. And I think with a better set of priorities and having the right candidate in there representing finally all of us along the Central Coast, we can really get something done and move in a better direction for all of us. Thank you again for having me here today.
All right, Mr. Woody, thank you. And next we'll move to Congressman Carbajal for your 90-second closing statement.
Well, thank you again to KSBY, to you, Richard and Karina, for having this forum for the public to share a little bit about our visions, what we've done, our experiences. And I look forward to continuing to work in Washington, in Congress, to make sure that I do everything possible to face and meet the challenges that our community is facing head on. For the past year and a half, I've had the privilege of representing the Central Coast. I've worked hard to make sure that legislation is moving forward to help mitigate the impacts to the economy as resulting from the closure of the Diablo Canyon power plant. I've worked hard to move legislation forward to address our water security issues. I've worked very hard to make sure that we do not reduce Social Security and Medicare. If anything, we increase it for our seniors. I've worked hard across the aisle in a bipartisan way to ensure that we are trying to reduce prescription drug costs so that people don't have to pay huge amounts of cost and expenses when they get their health care. I am trying to work on making sure we bring a DACA fix to fix the dreamers, to allow them to continue to stay here, and to work on comprehensive immigration reform, to allow our community to once and for all allow these individuals to come out of the shadows. I'm proud of the endorsements I received, Planned Parenthood, the federal firefighters, and the Sierra Club, and the League of Conservation Voters. And I will continue to work hard for the Central Coast in Congress.
All right,
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Mr. Fareed, you still need your closing statement.
Well, Karina, thank you, and Richard, for your taking the time this evening in KSBY, and for all the voters who have listened in. Washington is broken, and we do need a new generation of leadership there to make a difference moving forward. We've got some critical issues that we need to deal with head on, and it's going to be most important that we elect people that will put our families and our interests ahead of politics. In this debate, I think you've realized that we've touched on some very critical issues that we're dealing with, from our water and our transportation infrastructure. We need to make sure that we streamline the process so that we have a universal permitting system where we could have a diverse portfolio of resources. There's a bill that went past Congress called the Gain Responsibilities of Our Waters Act that I would support on day one when I get there. My opponent voted against that. I want to make sure that we are fighting for our local jobs and the economy. As a local businessman and third-generation rancher, I know how to create jobs. I've contributed to the local economy, and I'll continue to fight day and night for our local economy. We need to continue to fight for tax relief and ensure that we fix this broken budget structure in Congress so that this national debt doesn't continue to rise, because we cannot finance the future of this country on the backs of our kids and our grandkids. I look forward to working with each individual throughout our community to bring a voice for our Central Coast values. Thank you, and God bless.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We appreciate your time.
And we want to remind everybody, tomorrow is your last day to vote. We hope what you heard here today will help you to make an informed decision, and you can register to vote. Tomorrow is the deadline. We'll be back at 10 and 11 for your newscasts.